we've got a lot of information to share with you guys tonight, and so it's just going to be like drinking from a fire hydrant. We're just going to throw a lot of information at you. We'll give, if we've got time at the end, we'll have a chance if you guys want to ask some questions. We'll try our best to answer them. Our goal tonight is to help you guys with some of the new trends that we didn't face as teenagers. A lot of the technology that's just so readily available was not an issue back then. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're not going to cover just because there's so much to cover. And so we might do something else like this in the future, but it's just, there's just so much, and we're going to cover as much as we can in this little time. But we're hopefully, we've got it scheduled for about 35 minutes, and then if you guys want to ask some questions afterwards, feel free. But let me pray, and then we'll get going with the evening. God, thank you so much for the lives that you have entrusted these parents with. God, I pray that as we're here tonight, God, that you give us creative ideas and practical solutions to help combat some of the stuff that their teenagers, their students are facing on a daily basis, God, so that we can help raise up a generation that follows you no matter what the culture says. You are an awesome God. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
This first girl, her name is Mikayla. She's 13 years old. We've been talking on Facebook for the last couple of days, and we're supposed to meet up at the park later when her parents leave the house.
I'm just waiting right now to get the text that her parents have left the house. So I just got a text. My parents just left. I can be at the park in 10 minutes. We're gonna go see if she comes in 10 minutes. We're gonna go right now, set up all the cameras, and just be waiting there for her. Oh, she's coming, yeah. Mikayla?
Where are you?
From Facebook. Remember?
Mikayla! Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
Sorry.
He could have been a rapist. He could have been a pedophile. Why would you do this?
Sorry.
Yeah, you know that I could have been anyone. Like you talked to me for the last 4 days. You've been talking to me on Facebook. Do you know that? Like, you shouldn't talk to strangers, especially online. Like, I wasn't even do I look the same as my picture? It could be even worse than that.
You realize how scary this could have been? Man, we have to talk.
This next girl, her name is Juliana. She's 12 years old, and we're supposed to meet up tonight when her father falls asleep.
So right now I'm here with John, who's Juliana's father. We're gonna see if she's actually gonna come to the door or not. She said, this was the last text, LOL, I would have to wait till my dad falls asleep if you want to chill, because I can't have boys over. So she wants to chill tonight, supposedly. What do you think about that?
I don't think she's gonna open the door. Gotta hope she doesn't open that door.
What's your address?
I pray she does not respond to this.
Well, I can't say the address, but she literally just texted the address. Start driving to the address, close by. My dad's going to drop me off. All right, so she just said, I think my dad fell asleep, you can come now. One with the light right here?
Yes.
I'm outside. Come to the front door. Are you ready? Sit you.
Juliana, get over here. Get over here. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry.
How can you do this? You're 12 years old. This guy's 20 years old. You could have been raped and murdered. We already lost your mother. What would I do if anything happened to you? What would I do if anything happened to you? I love you. Don't you ever do this again. Don't you ever do anything like this again.
I'm sorry.
This next girl, her name is Jenna. She's 14 years old. We've been talking online over text message and even had a phone conversation.
So right now we have the parents of Jenna. Jenna thinks Her parents are going out tonight for date night. She thinks my brother is gonna be driving, so she's gonna get in the car, but she doesn't actually know that it's all just me. So I'm gonna text her right now. Did your parents leave yet? Yeah, like 15 minutes ago. Do you think she's gonna go through with this?
No way.
Absolutely not. I don't even believe it's her.
Okay.
Probably one of her friends playing around with her.
What's your address? All right, is this your house?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go. All right. We are here, come out. You don't think she's coming out?
She better not be coming out.
Oh, I see a door opening.
Yeah, please.
Yep. I see someone.
Can't believe this.
Are you Daniel's brother?
Yeah. Hop in. He's in the back. Over here.
Jenna, stop! It's your mother or father! Jenna, look, turn around. Turn around. Turn around. How could you dare go into a stranger's car?
What are you thinking? Just explain
Give me
to
your phone right now. Give me your phone now.
What would have happened if you came out and it wasn't us sitting back here and there were really crazy people back here?
We never would have saw you again.
We've watched movies together. We've looked at newspaper articles and the news about all these things are real life situations that have happened. And we've discussed them. What, you think it's fine to go try it out on your own?
But what happened if this van would have drove away and it would have been 3 strangers sitting in this car? Huh? What would you have done? What would we have done when we didn't have our daughter anymore?
You understand, you probably thought you were talking to a 15-year-old. You didn't even know what was happening, did you? You just got in like that. You were going with everything I was saying. You understand now. Just never ever do that again. This will teach you a lesson forever. Your whole life.
What a lighthearted way to start technical difficulties, right? Such a nice, peaceful, funny video. No, one of the reasons that we wanted to show that video was just to present some of the scenarios that can potentially happen. Now, this guy had got permission from the parents, obviously, but it was more of a social experiment. And I just want to ask you guys, simply by a show of your hands, how many of you would say that there's no way that my child is so stupid as to talk to a complete stranger? Would anyone be so confident to say that anyone? No? Going once, going twice? We're going to be referencing some surveys that we took here from the students at the church. And so we surveyed about 45 different students from 6th to 12th grade, guys and girls. And we found that 40% of the students here in the church had carried on a conversation with someone they didn't know. And that was either through social media, through internet, just a chat room, and even like online gaming, which that can seem harmless, but through our research and reading stuff online, that there's a very real danger that can be present in that. And what these predators can potentially do, not saying that everyone they talk to is, but what can happen and what does happen is a process called grooming, and the definition is up there. It's the act of luring another with free gifts, favors, promises, or praise with the intent of gaining sexual favors, or potentially if it's in the predator side of things, it's gaining their trust so that they can potentially meet them and then do harm if that's what they're intending to do. And it's a very real process that happens. It's a very scary process because anyone can be anyone over a phone screen or over behind a screen. And so our goal tonight is to help you be aware of some of these dangers and not completely freak you out, but hopefully give you some tools that equip you to have some conversations with your students. Us as reasonable, logical adults would say we never talk to a stranger, right? No, stranger danger. You stay away from them. We never talk to strangers. But what seems so obvious to us may not seem that obvious to teenagers because their brains, the human brain isn't fully developed till the mid to late 20s. And I'm sure some of you guys would say, yeah, some later than others. But, and so what seems like an obvious consequence doesn't seem that way to them. And if you don't believe me, how many times have you asked your kid, what were you thinking, right? Like, what were you thinking when you did that? And they're like, it's funny. And you're like, I hope it's funny drinking out of a straw for like the next 6 to 8 weeks, because not so funny now, right? Like, temporary entertainment can seem is a lot more appealing than long-term consequences. And unfortunately, because that part of the brain isn't developed, that's the case. But another thing is that not just with the underdevelopment of the brain, is that, man, teenagers and students now are comfortable with this. They're comfortable. I didn't get my first phone until I was 16 or 17, and it could only call. Like, I didn't even have Snake. I had the off-brand Nokia. Like, I couldn't even play Snake. But I think the first iPhone came out in 2007, and so if your child's 10, 11, 12, they're used to having a mobile device, the internet at their fingertips, and so it's comfortable for them. And with that comfort, you don't think of danger, possible danger. When I crawl in bed, I don't think that my pillow is planning my demise, right? I'm like, this is my safe zone. And so with the underdeveloped brain and their comfort zone, a lot of times their thumbs will think faster than their brains, and so comes poor choices. And so, man, all of that is why we're here tonight. All of that is why we're here tonight, to help equip you to the dangers, the consequences that we didn't face, but that are out there now. And how are we going to do that? We can either get behind the curve, or we can try to stay on top of it. So we're going to start with some stats that we looked at, and all of this stuff is ever-changing. So these apps that we're talking about, they've been around for a little while, but they could easily change. We read an article back in November 2016, and there was a list of several apps that are no longer relevant, that were dangerous but are no longer relevant through our communication. So this stuff changes a lot, and so hopefully we can help you guys stay on top of that, so you can monitor those interactions a little bit more. So let's talk about texting. Let's talk about texting. Actually, no, we're going to talk about social media first. So 65% of the teenagers here, or the students here at Foundations Church that we talk to, have a social media profile, which is a little bit lower than the national average. I think it's probably because we have a lot younger youth ministry. But the national average is 72%, and over half of those profiles are viewable by whoever wants to type in a name and search for anybody. And Aubrey's going to talk a lot more about the apps and the security settings and all that stuff like that, how we can make sure it's locked down so that stranger danger isn't finding your kid. The main apps that are used are Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and there's a handful of others, but most of them weren't super relevant. Again, Aubrey's going to touch on some more of those here in a little bit. Now, texting. Texting's a big deal. I'm sure it's for me, it's like my preferred method of communication. It's way more efficient. There are the stats. Way faster than the phone call. Higher chance of it being read. Higher chance of it being returned. But the last one that I think is interesting is that 94 minutes a day spent texting. So you don't think about it, but those minutes add up over time, and that an hour and a half a day is the average that is spent on a phone. And with that comes an opportunity to try to hide some of the conversations that are being had on the phone. But what we found was pretty interesting is that 53% of the students said they don't delete their text messages, which is, hey, cool, thumbs up. About a third said they sometimes delete them, and 15% said they delete them really often. But the thing with deleting text messages, you can delete individual messages so that what might be an inappropriate conversation can be modified to make it look harmless. So if it starts out fine but evolves into a more inappropriate conversation, you can delete those texts individually so that those texts are wiped out and it says, no, this is who I'm talking to. But one of the real reasons we found out they don't really delete text messages is because their main communications through their friends are not through text messages. It's through Snapchat, it's through direct messages on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And so a lot more of the communication is being had online. And a lot of those apps, those mediums, delete those messages automatically. You'll see a theme, a recurring theme that's starting to happen with hide the evidence. Not necessarily on the teenagers' parts, but the apps that they're using. And let me stop right here, and I'm sure some of you guys are like, I'm going to kill them. I'm going to get home and just smash their phone to pieces. I want us to try to think back to when we were teenagers. Some of us would intentionally try to get in trouble, some not so much. But I think we would all, if there was something that was benefiting us that our parents didn't know, we probably weren't going to be the whistleblowers in that situation, right? And that's human nature. If Aubrey is way better person than me, but like if I get more change than I should, and luckily she's with me most of the time, and then I hear her voice in the back of my head. If I get more change than I should, I'm like, sorry. Like I very rarely are we the ones, if we're getting benefited, are we going to share the information that's going to cut those benefits off? And so I don't think it's necessarily the teenagers being deceptive or mischievous, but they're not. They're going to, if you're ignorant about the situation, they're probably not going to be the one to bring the insight. So there's that. Let's get to a little more probably scary area, which is sexting, which if you don't know what that is, you should. Sexual texting, I'll just put it like that, okay? You should. It's pretty easy. That's not a typo up there, all right? That's what it is. These are, again, these stats that I'm mentioning, and if it's different, it says national stats, but our stats right here, 24% of the teenagers, 1 in 4, roughly, have been asked to send a revealing picture. About the same number have seen or received a revealing picture from someone they know, and that's right in line with the national stats, would say 25% have been involved in sexting, sending inappropriate pictures or receiving those same pictures. There's the other ones, 1 in 5 mobile searches is for pornographic material, and girls are twice as likely to send a nude or semi-nude photo. So just because we're in the Bible Belt doesn't mean that we're exempt from these. It's a real thing. In talking to the students while we were giving these surveys, asking somebody for an inappropriate picture is just like the conversation that I'm having with you guys. It's secondhand, not a big deal. Like if I were to say, hey, send me this, and someone said no, it's not like, oh my gosh, he asked me. It's just like, whatever. No, it's not a big deal. The culture around that is surrounding your students is desensitizing them to sex. So what was precious to us, what we held in a high regard, is no longer the standard. And so it is an uphill battle because we are fighting the culture. We are having to go against what are the social norms, and it's a scary thought because instead of saying, hey, man, I'm saving myself, and it's like a prize thing, now it's almost a stigma to say that I'm saving myself for marriage. And so there are a lot of things that come with having the technology at your fingertips. A lot of things. And unfortunately, odds are if your children have a phone, I'm guessing that you gave it to them, right? That's probably how it works. I don't think many teenagers are capable of going out and buying a $700, $800, $500 phone, right? And the tools that we've given them, they've become like little master craftsmen with their tools, and they're experts at them. And we're behind the 8 ball, and so we want to try to equip you, try to inform you to help you figure out what's going on, hopefully help you guys start some conversations, and some of these conversations may be a little more difficult, but the truth is that your role as a parent shouldn't be to be their best friend. They've got plenty of friends. Your role should be to be a good steward of the life God has entrusted you with, and you only get one shot with your kid, right? You don't get to hit the rewind button and go back in time. You get one shot. And so while these conversations may be difficult, the reality is God's entrusted their life to you, and so let's make sure that we're doing a great job with what we have. And so I'm going to let my wife talk a little more about the specific apps and privacy settings and how we can make sure that our teenagers are staying safe.
All right, so I'm going to go over some of the major apps that our students are using. I'm just going to hit the highlights kind of on privacy settings and then also kind of dangers that you need to look out for. So like Michael said, these are ever changing. They're always something new. They're always something new app. So you need to stay current and stay up to date with what the kids are using. Also, all these social media apps, they're always set to the default setting is public, where anybody can see anything, anybody can look your kid up. So you have to physically go in each individual one and change it to private or change it to where not everybody can see them. Also important with all of these is know who is following your kids and know who your friends are with your kids, or who your kids' friends are. Okay, there we go. But because if they add a stranger that requests to be their friend, then suddenly the stranger can see everything. So you need to have that conversation with them that they should only add people that they know. The fourth thing is they think it's like a phone call. Like they text somebody, they snap somebody, and they think, okay, it's gone. That's all I'll hear from it. But it's not like that. The internet doesn't forget. You know, say it, forget it, write it, regret it, as my favorite TV judge would say. I'm sorry, I like People's Court. Anyway, but they put anything on social media, it can get to other people. If they send an inappropriate text or picture to someone, it gets everywhere like wildfire. And also know that social media is watching your kids, and Facebook is notorious for that. They actually monitor the posts, the pictures that they put, the feelings that they put, any exchange they have. Facebook actually said they can determine, quote, when young people feel everything from stressed and defeated to stupid and useless, and that they can target the moments when people are most vulnerable so they can give them a confidence boost. I don't know about you, but I don't think Facebook's too worried about the confidence boost that it's going to give young people. That's actually tracking and using algorithms to see when your kids are most vulnerable to either put an ad in front of them or a product or, you know, things like that. So be aware that this whole social media thing is a huge monster. I'm going to go into Facebook. Before Facebook, I wanted to mention Twitter. Twitter is not a big deal as far as interacting with strangers and things like that, but I did want to warn you that on Twitter, there's no filter and no restriction on what people can post. So if you want to look at anything, you can just search for it in Twitter and you will find it. So as far as inappropriate pictures, inappropriate conversations, it's super easy to find that on Twitter. Facebook, now Facebook is a little older. People aren't using it as much. When you got on Facebook, your kids got off Facebook. When Michael's grandma got a Facebook account, Facebook was no longer cool. And so this is an older app, but people still use it. So I'm going to show you kind of some pictures. This is kind of your settings page if you go to settings. So some of the things you need to look at are the privacy, timeline and tagging, location, and then another area we'll talk about is a privacy checkup. So if you go to privacy, this is who can see my stuff. So you can say just your friends or friends of friends or anybody. So you can change each individual area to show who is looking at your profile. The next setting is the timeline and tagging setting. So if someone posts on your timeline, who can see that? Just your friends or anybody that's friends with the person who tagged you. So that's another setting you need to be aware of. The next one is location. So most of these apps have a location feature where they can track you 24/7 if you have that setting on, or you can only change the location setting to only while you're using it, or you can change the location setting where it's not following you at all. And the last one for Facebook is this privacy shortcut and privacy checkup, which is a really cool feature, which you click on it and it takes you through a really easy self-tutorial on how to look at each one of these areas and kind of gives you a diagnostic or a checkup on how private your account really is. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Facebook Messenger, which is a new app or kind of newish app for Facebook. It's just like texting, only just through a different app, Facebook Messenger. And the one thing I wanted to point out with Facebook Messenger is the secret conversations. So that's what Facebook Messenger looks at. At the very bottom, you can see secret conversations. This is a new feature that you can turn on and off. And what it does, it saves your conversation with somebody. It automatically deletes it after a certain amount of time. And also, you can only look on it on one device. So say if I was having a secret conversation with Michael on my phone, it would only show up on my phone. If my parents logged in on my Facebook on my computer, it wouldn't show up, only on one device. And there's also a one-hit button of delete conversation. So if, you know, something's happening, my parents come in the room, I want to delete all this, bam, you can delete it in the blink of an eye. So that's kind of a danger with Facebook Messenger. And you can have this turned off where your kids can't turn that on. The next one we're going to go over is Snapchat. Snapchat is a mainly picture texting thing. You can use different filters, things like that, send funny photos. Like there's one of Michael and I as little goats or something. Anyway, kind of cute. But these things are automatically deleted after you send it, after a certain amount of time. So whether it's picture or text, you can use as text. Like you'd see that chats are deleted by default. So you can go and change the settings, but they're not automatically deleted. But just know anyone they're snapping, it's automatically deleted. Another thing to look on there is the My Story feature, which kind of you can just post pictures kind of throughout your day, and you can change the settings on who can see that. A stranger, anybody, or if it has to be their friends, you can change that to only your friends or everybody or customize it there. The other thing I wanted to point out with Snapchat is this area called Discover. So this is kind of like an area of news articles. These are all snaps that are linked to news articles. And you can see this is actually the most appropriate one I could find because it's only a Barbie doll. But it takes you to their website for their news article with lots of different pictures or snaps. But in about 2 seconds, and with 2 taps of my finger, I found a string bikini photo shoot. So just let you know, and there's no way to edit this, there's no way to turn this off, so your kids have access to that 24/7 as soon as it's on there. So to go to your settings on Snapchat, you can go to your settings and you can find who can contact me, view my story, all their privacy policies, clear conversations, if you want to block people, things like that is under the settings. And then I think the next one, if you want to, under your options, you can say who added you as well, if you want to report a problem, all that stuff. So I think that's about it for Snapchat. The next one is Instagram. So Instagram is like Snapchat with mainly through picture conversations, but you can post things and you can scroll down. You can follow SC Tulsa. You should check them out. And then it kind of shows your profile and the pictures you've posted your entire time that you've been on Instagram. So to go to your settings, you click the little gear thing in the corner, and then under account, you can go to story settings. And you can change your account to private. That little switch at the bottom, you can change it to private, where anyone who wants to follow you has to request. You have to request to see all your information, and they can either accept or deny it, and then go from there. Not just any stranger can see it. Another new thing with Instagram, they just added this feature recently, is Instagram Direct, which is a messaging system that automatically deletes stuff as soon as people read it. So there's a common theme. So you can send pictures, send messages, and it automatically deletes as soon as everything. It's disappearing. Another thing with Instagram is also the searches. I typed in a search, I think I typed in hot, and you can just only imagine what these things popped up. I clicked on one and I would not dare put on what I saw on the screen in a church. So that's how bad it was. So they can search for anything, find any inappropriate picture they want. The next one we're going to go over is YouTube. So YouTube, you can stream, watch lots of funny cat videos, all that good stuff. But I wanted to point out an interesting feature you may not know about YouTube. So YouTube, you're usually searching things like funny cat videos or how to do my math problems. And you can clear that history where it deletes everything so it won't show what you've been looking at. But that may look kind of suspicious to your parents. Oh, you've searched for nothing on YouTube. So there's a new feature that you can actually pause your search history and pause your viewing history. So you type in, funny cat videos. Okay, my parents are gone. I'm going to search for put the pause on, search for any inappropriate things I want. Oh, parents are back home. Turn the pause off, back to funny cat videos, and it looks like I never searched for anything inappropriate or viewed anything inappropriate. So just be aware that that is something. And also on YouTube, you can change a filter on there. There's the clear and pause all your viewing stuff. There's a filter there you can turn on or off that kind of filters out more adult content, so you should probably make sure that is turned on all their apps. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Tinder, which kids don't use that much these days. It's a matchmaking site where it matches you with strangers, and it's used based on location, so strangers in your area, that if you like them and they like you, it says you're matched and you can get together to chat. So I asked the kids about this. They're like, oh, yeah, older kids use that for hookups and stuff like that. But the younger kids, they get together to use this to smoke weed, smoke cigarettes, hang out. So it's basically a stranger finder. So I don't know why any kid would need this, but just be aware. The kind of scary thing is now, in the last month, they have released a new app called Yellow. And what Yellow is, it's basically Tinder for teens. So it matches you up with complete strangers. If you like their picture and they like you, it matches you up, hooks you up with their Snapchat account and their Instagram account instantly. And it's supposed to be only for kids. But you cannot use it if you're younger than 13. You're supposed to not be able to use it if you're over 18. However, the authorities and FBI are already involved in this because they said sexual predators and things like that are creating fake accounts and getting in here. There's no filter. There's no way of checking how old an actual person is. So be very wary of this Yellow app as well. So those are kind of the big apps. If you have more questions afterward, just come talk to me and I can show you kind of how to navigate those.
Yeah, you've seen a current theme like erase history, clear, delete messages, all those things like that. And I see some of you guys writing down stuff, and I know we're just vomiting information on you. If you want, this is being recorded, so if you want to go back and watch it or pause it or be like, all right, how do I do that again? It'll be online. later, so feel free to do that. But we would be doing you a disservice and ourselves a disservice and wasting our time if we didn't say, all right, well, what do we do now? So you've got the scary stats and you've got the apps that are all trying to hide stuff and everything, but what do we do now? And so we have a few things that hopefully you can practically take home and try to implement with your children. And so we're going to talk about a few of those right now, about some different things that we can do.
So I was able to talk to the high school girls for 45 minutes about all about this issue, and it was great. And one of the biggest things that they wanted was open lines of communication with their parents. They want to be able to talk to you guys about it. They're like, we know it's going to be awkward. It's awkward for them, it's awkward for us, but we want to talk about this stuff. You know, things that we valued are not being conveyed by this culture. So you have to be the ones to convey, this is why, this is the reasons we have these morals and values. One of the things that the students brought up was that this is a, quote, pro-ho movement. It's actually a thing. You can look it up and Google it, and there's news articles about it. It's about it's a good thing to be a hoe now, and that you want to explore your sexuality. You want to sleep with as many people as you can. Like, it's crazy how the world is viewing this stuff now. So they want to be able to talk to you about this. So you got to balance that ability to not be overbearing and not steal their phone and delete everything social media, but then you also have to be open and understanding why you want to set the limits. And that's the big thing, is you got to tell them why. Because rules without relationship equals rebellion. So you need to be able to tell the reason why behind. The girl said, if you don't tell me the reason why I shouldn't do something, I'm more likely to do it. It's easier to make a mistake. I feel more guilty if I do make the mistake, and I'm less likely to come to my mom or dad when I have an issue or when I'm concerned that I'm going to break the rules. So definitely the why behind it, explaining why you shouldn't talk to strangers, why you shouldn't send a nude picture of yourself to someone. Like, all those things that may seem obvious to you, if you don't have that open communication, they won't know.
Yeah, and another thing I would say is start as early as you can. I'm looking around and I think most of you guys have fairly young students, which is awesome. And so maybe they just recently got a phone or I don't know. But the earlier you can start, the better. In the handouts that you have, there is a family phone contract that a friend of mine gave his kids whenever they got phones. And it's just a great way to set the tone, like, hey, these are your expectations. And if you don't follow these expectations, there are consequences. And so whenever they mess up or whenever they break the contract and the phone gets taken away or whatever it is, they can't say I didn't know, because it's been gone through the contract. And so it's a great idea. Obviously modify it to fit your needs, but it just sets the tone. Say, hey, this is when you can use it, this is when you can't, and these are the whys. This is our property, and we are extending it to you out of the goodness of our hearts. So just look it over. It's a great ideas to give to your kid. And again, if they ask, why are we doing this? Tell them the why. Be open, not so I can take your phone whenever I want, but let them know, man, I'm trying to keep you safe. I'm trying to make sure that there are boundaries, and I'm trying to protect you. And, let them know.
Another thing is to lead by example. If you don't want your kid on their phone 24/7, they shouldn't see you on your phone 24/7. If you don't want them at the dinner table messing with your phone, put your phone away too. You need to show the students that you love them and that they're more important than whatever's on Facebook or whatever's on social media. So lead by example.
Yeah, and everyone wants to be popular. Everyone, you want to be liked. Let me say that. No one wants to not be liked. Okay. And so what they post on social media, it's usually because they want a response. They want people to know, oh no, you're so sweet, you look gorgeous. They want a bunch of thumbs up. They want a bunch of hearts on their Instagram. And so they find that validation in those things. And so try to start instilling in them that it's not through that stuff where they need to find the validation. They should hear from you more than anyone else that they're loved, that they're valued, that they're beautiful, that they're smart, whatever it is, that they're talented. They should hear that from you more than anyone else, and start to try to change the trend that they need the validation from what they post. And maybe you never know what your child could be capable of, as far as you setting and them finding value and saying, hey, you know what? I don't do that stuff because I find value in myself, because I know that God loves me, and I don't find my self-worth in the way I look, but who I am on the inside. And You never know that personality, that attitude that they have, that shift in attitude that they have could extend to someone else who needs it. And so they need to hear the validation from you. They need to know that what they post shouldn't be where they find their self-worth, that it should be in their identity in Christ, and that should be coming from you. Again, lead by example in that.
And the next thing you do is also turn on their restrictions. Go through all these security settings with your students. Find out what their settings are and how you should modify them, and then explain why you should change them. Also know what apps they're downloading. You can change it on an iPhone where you have to have the password to download an app. Maybe they shouldn't know the password, and you only know the password. So if they want to download something, they have to come to you for you to put it on there. That way you can see exactly what they're downloading. Another feature of that, though, is if, all right, I give you my password, download this app, you hand the phone back to them. I think it's like a 15-minute setting or something. They can download everything without getting another password from you. So just be aware that once you unlock it, they can download several things if you're not the one actually downloading them.
Yeah. Again, in the packet that we have for you guys, there's like 3 different software packages that you can buy and you can install. We invest in our retirement. We invest in the things we care about, and man, I think it's very, very much worth looking at purchasing some of these softwares, some of the software, and installing it on your devices. Not so much as like a spy tool, but as just a monitoring tool to make sure, setting restrictions on time usage and app usage and things like that. Now, I will say I did talk to Apple. I called them and talked to them and asked them if there were any Apple-approved apps. Like, hey, is there anything that specifically that Apple approves? And he said, man, there's not. He said it would just be a matter of looking through the App Store to kind of tailoring it to what you need. He did mention turning on the restrictions, the purchasing, the message, like all those things. You can turn on a restriction in Safari. You can download web filtering apps where it's a web browser, but it's a filter on it. So do your homework on those. Some of those might fit your needs. Some of them might work with just an Android. Some of them might just work with an iPhone. Do your homework on them before you drop $90 or whatever it is on them. And when I say that, just think of it as this way. I'm investing $7 a month in my child's safety. It's not like, $90, right? It's like, we'll go spend $50 eating out, but we're always kind of hesitant to be like, I don't know if I want to spend that much money. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's very valuable. Do your homework first on those. Make sure it fits your need, and read the reviews and see what all you have to do to make sure it's working properly on your phones.
Another thing that you can do is have access to their social media sites. So have their logins and their passwords. Not that you're going to go spy on them and look at it every 5 minutes, but if they know that you have access and that you can at any random time pull up their Snapchat or Instagram and see who they're actually talking to, they may be a lot more hesitant to talk to strangers or talk to people they know they shouldn't be doing. Another thing that they can do, because kids are really smart, so you have the Find My iPhone feature. You can see whoever's on your plan where their iPhones are at all times. So say they're going to go play at Billy's house and they're going to go hang out with Billy. They take their phone over there. You look, okay, yeah, they're at Billy's house. Some things that teens are doing nowadays are just leaving the phone at Billy's and going with Billy over to who knows what party, something like that. Or they can also turn off the feature, the Find My iPhone, and it looks like, their phone either died or they're at the last location. So just be aware that they're tricky and they're smart, and if they want to get away with stuff, they can. So you have to be proactive in asking them, where did you go tonight? What did you do? Things like that.
Yeah. And the last thing I would say, and some of you would say it's an extreme measure, and even if someone told me I had to do this, I would be like, you're crazy. But if they can't handle a smartphone, if you've given them opportunities, and again, they break your trust and break your trust and break your trust, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result? It's like, hey, okay, I'm going to ground you from your phone because you were on it way too late. I'm going to ground you from your phone because I saw what, like, if there's a constant theme revolving around their phone, move to a different phone. And it's like, what? Yeah, your child may not have an iPad or an iPhone or an Android or a smartphone, and you'd be like, I'm going to get made fun of. Well, if your friends aren't your friends because of the type of phone you have, then what kind of friends do you have in the first place, right? Get them a phone that can do the basics, right? That can call and that can text. Like, hopefully not picture text, if that's the problem they're getting into. But if they can't handle the responsibility of having a smartphone and you keep giving it back to them, at what point do you stop blaming the teenager because they're teenagers, and at what point do you start taking some of the responsibility on yourself because you're giving them the tool that they keep messing up with. So that's an extreme one, but at the end of the day, what did Jesus say? It's better to enter into heaven with one eye, or to enter into heaven with with no iPhone, than it is to go to hell with the latest technology, I think is the Michael New Testament version. So those are some things practically that it may not be like, oh, wow, I never thought of that list before. But hopefully after seeing some of these stats and hearing about the apps, these are some things that you can practically do to take home with you.
Yeah, there was so much stuff we wanted to cover. We could probably talk for 2 more hours at least on things that we found out. But we just want to start the conversation with your kids. Go home, pray about it, talk with them about it. Go through things and see what's appropriate, not appropriate, and talk to them and tell them why. So there were, like I said, with the girls alone, the conversation I had was amazing. 45 minutes of everything under the sun that they wanted to talk about. So if you have any questions, we want to answer those and be available afterwards.